A quiet suburban street in Illinois is interrupted by a frantic plea to a 911 dispatcher. A mother stands outside an apartment door, visibly shaking. She tells the operator her daughter's boyfriend has killed her daughter. And then she details exactly how: by severing her head. Just hours earlier, CCTV cameras recorded a man stepping out of that same apartment building just before midnight. He carried a white laundry basket, his face obscured by a covering. He walked out of the frame, heading behind a nearby smoke shop. The contents of that basket remained a secret until the next afternoon. A construction worker, throwing away old drywall in a large red dumpster behind the shop, found a pile of blood-soaked clothes. Hidden among them was the missing head of 22-year-old Lisa Dod. The sheer brutality of the crime suggests a sudden, inexplicable break from reality, that the timeline reveals a long, predictable trajectory of violence leading to that night. Lisa Dod was a vibrant, enthusiastic young woman born and raised in Alton, Illinois. She loved animals so much that she once turned her 10th birthday party into a fundraiser for a local no-kill shelter. She worked at a nearby Dairy Queen and was saving money to pursue a career in the medical field. By June of 2022, Lisa was looking forward to an entirely new chapter. She was 8 months pregnant with a little girl her family affectionately called Baby Bean. Just days before her death, she had mailed out the invitations for her baby shower. We know exactly who ended those plans. Her boyfriend, 22-year-old De'Andre Holloway, committed the murder. Identifying the killer is straightforward. The difficulty lies in understanding how an optimistic, expectant mother found herself trapped in an environment of increasing danger. The physical erosion of Lisa's safety started long before the summer of 2022. Her manager at Dairy Queen frequently noticed Lisa showing up for her shifts with chronic black eyes and visible finger-shaped bruising up and down her arms. Lisa used typical cover-ups to hide the reality of her home life. She tried to deflect the concern of her coworkers by claiming her dog had jumped up and hit her in the face. The relationship also generated extreme lifestyle instability. Despite both of them holding down jobs at various points, Lisa and De'Andre experienced bouts of homelessness. At one point, the couple was living in a tent by Lake Litchfield to weather the constant volatility of their situation. The violence continued to intensify. In July of 2021, physical alterations crossed the line into severe medical trauma when De'Andre struck Lisa hard enough to break her nose, landing her in the hospital. These injuries represent a systematic dismantling of Lisa's physical boundaries and personal safety. In the days leading up to the murder, De'Andre's mental health began a steep, untreated downward spiral. On June 5th, he sent a dark text message to a friend, writing, "My cup filled up, and now it's got to spill over. I don't know how to healthfully let out emotions without snapping." Lisa was spiraling with him. On June 7th, she calmly texted her mother to say she had intentionally cut her own leg with a razor. When her mother asked why she was self-harming, Lisa replied with absolute despair, "'Cause I just can't get it right." The toxic cycle overrode every safety measure Lisa tried to implement. She had previously obtained an order of protection and had even heard De'Andre explicitly threaten to kill her and her family. Yet she continually allowed him back into her life. When severe, untreated mental illness intersects with the psychological dependency of a violent relationship, a fatal collision becomes inevitable. The warning signs stop being warnings and start acting as a countdown. That countdown reached 0 on June 8th. Against the direct warnings of her mother, who begged her to be careful, Lisa drove out to pick up a returning De'Andre and brought him back to her apartment. They walked inside at 9:11 p.m. Shortly after, the downstairs neighbors heard the final escalation. It started with muffled screaming, the kind of restrained yelling that happens through intense pain. Soon, the entire apartment structure began to physically shake. Then came the culmination of the violence. The neighbors listened as 5 or 6 heavy, rhythmic thuds echoed through the ceiling. They later described this steady, sickening sound as being exactly like someone chopping wood. Immediately afterward, De'Andre initiated a calculated forensic cover-up. He changed out of his bloody clothes, threw them in a trash can, and methodically hacked off his signature dreadlocks to alter his physical appearance before fleeing the scene. Police caught up with him the very next day. They found him wandering in the nearby town of Gillespie, behaving erratically and pacing nervously in handcuffs. In his pockets, investigators found Lisa's debit card and the keys to her apartment. De'Andre's deliberate, sequenced steps to hide evidence, change his identity, and flee the jurisdiction suggest a clear understanding of his actions. He was actively working to avoid the consequences of the crime. Bringing De'Andre to trial was a slow process. He was initially found mentally unfit for court and had to be remanded to a state institution to undergo treatment until he could legally face the charges against him. A ruling from the Supreme Court of Illinois also limited the prosecution's reach. The court determined that an unborn child could not be classified as a second murder victim for the specific purpose of seeking a mandatory life sentence, altering the maximum penalty De'Andre could face. In January 2024, De'Andre Holloway entered a guilty plea. He was eventually sentenced to 60 consecutive years in prison for the murder of Lisa Dod, the intentional homicide of her unborn child, and the concealment of a homicidal death. The legal system operates reactively. It can punish the final act of violence, but it is unable to save a victim once the situation reaches its peak. The true emotional weight of this case doesn't belong to the killer. It belongs to Lisa's mother, Heidi. Standing in the courtroom, displaying profound resilience, she delivered a victim impact statement aimed at anyone currently trapped in a similar cycle. Heidi offered a chilling, necessary warning. If an abuser threatens to end your life, believe them. If they have the capacity to say it, think it, and talk about it, they have the capacity to carry out the threat. It echoes a poem Lisa herself once shared online before her death. The verses note that love doesn't mean leaning, and company doesn't mean security. It encourages the reader to build their own roads on today, because tomorrow's ground is too uncertain. The progression of domestic violence follows a recognizable path. Early intervention is the only way to break the cycle before it demands another life.